In the previous video, we saw how Bakugo and Mizuyo grew up as best friends, with both of them aiming to be heroes in the future. After winning the war against All for One, they met Kamihara, the younger sister of ninja hero Edgeshot. When Bakugo started dating her, Mizuyo realized that she had feelings for him, feelings that she had to bury within if she wanted to save their friendship.
I want more of you, but afraid what I'll lose if you know what the truth is. You're so special. You mean everything to me. I'll pretend if this is the way things must be.
Book 3, Bakugo's Constant. Takeda received a highly welcome text message from Hawks very early the next day. He said that he got permission from Principal Nezu and Endeavor for her to assist in a project that week.
I want to team up with you.
She was saved from worrying about her puffy eyes due to crying, and what kind of explanation would she be giving when Bakugo sees it? As she packed for her trip, she can't help but remember her conversation with Bakugo last night. She must get her acts together, or else things will never be the same between them. She picked up her phone and sent Bakugo a message. Hey, I guess you'd be missing me for a few days. I'm off to Hawk's agency for a special project, but I have no idea what it is yet. So don't go blowing off anyone's head while I'm gone, okay? She tried to make her message sound as normal as she would normally send them. But it took her almost half an hour to compose it before she felt that it was safe to send. It's time you make things right, Takeda. So clear your head. Don't be selfish. Don't be greedy. She had been repeating her mantra to herself since last night. Bakugo finished reading Takeda's message. He had been thinking about her. He didn't know if he said the right things last night, so he was more than glad to have received a message from her today. He reread her message to see if he missed out on something, but it seemed like she was back to her old self. He glared at his phone one last time before placing it down. Later that week, Takeda came back to UA after her work study at Hawk's agency. I know this is not on schedule, but I do owe you a bento box Friday. Takeda tried to be cheerful as she surprised everyone in the cafeteria. Wow, when did you have the time to do all this? Kaminari said as he opened each box to search for his favorite. Bakugo didn't say a word, but his eyes did lit up as soon as he saw her. It has been a while since he had seen her smile. It's a treat from Hawks, she said, and forced herself to give a big smile.
There's a great hot pot place not too far away from here. You can really taste the flavors of the broth. Does that sound good?
He said, since it's my first project with him, I could buy stuff that I'd like to bring back to school. So I brought this. Here's your favorite, Denki. She started giving them out their boxes. And for you, Kamihara, well, since I didn't know what you like, I made sure and bought two, a salmon and a beef. Oh, I love salmon, Kamihara said. Salmon, Takeda repeated without thinking. Just like Kachan, he likes salmon too. She knew she should have stopped there, but her tongue had a mind of its own as it continued to say, You're so compatible. Fortunately, everyone seemed excited rummaging the pile of bento boxes and didn't notice her tone of bitterness. Except Bakugo, who looked at her a bit suspiciously. She immediately grinned at him, but he didn't smile back. Instead, he scowled at her. So she shoved the bento box to his chest without removing the grin on her face. He accepted it, so she took it as a sign that he's not really suspecting anything. But she needed to be mindful in the future.
Itadakimasu!
They all started to eat happily. Takeda stole glances at Bakugo and Kamihara while continuously telling her brain, "Don't be selfish, Kida. Don't be greedy." Her days at Hawk's agency had at least given her some time to calm herself, but it did cost her plenty of sleepless nights and unfinished meals. In the end, after giving it a lot of thoughts, she accepted that she cannot deny her true feelings. But also, she knew she had to set it aside and think of ways to overcome it. If she had to be the same Kida in Kachan's eyes forever, then so be it. Their friendship always comes first. She smiled sadly at her thoughts.
I'd rather be with you than be with anybody else. I'd rather have you in my life than not at all. Can't wait until the day when I can call you my own. Until then, you're my best friend.
Mizuyo, thanks for the bento. Mind if I sit here? Sure, go ahead. Scoot, Denki. Takeda was so on the edge trying to look normal. She pushed Denki so hard he almost fell off his seat. Hey, my foot almost flew, Kaminari complained. Bakugo hissed as he caught Denki's bento before it actually flew away with him. He then returned his full attention to Tokoyami. Hawks was all praises for you. Turned out the call-up mission with Shiketsuhai was a huge success, Tokoyami told Takeda. Oh, you know Hawks, he's just too flowery with his words, Takeda said nonchalantly. But have you considered his offer? To transfer to his agency for the remaining of your work study? Tokoyami asked. You're transferring? Bakugo reacted. He was half angry, half surprised. Well, nothing is final yet. That was why he met with me the other week, to invite me to his agency, Takeda explained. Wow! Last year, Endeavor's agency invited you to join them for a work study, and now Hawks is pirating you, Sarah said. Well, you are one of the future big three once you get to third year. Everyone knows it, Kaminari said. Yeah, you took frontline against All for One during the war. I faced Gigantomachia and I was terrified. I bet All for One was 1,000-fold scarier, Kirishima added. But you held your ground. No wonder top agencies are asking for you. Uh, I wouldn't say Hawks is pirating me. He just felt that a change would be good for me. Takeda massaged the back of her neck, feeling a bit embarrassed by now. As for Endeavor Agency, they initially took me in because of my quirk. My water quirk works well against the Totoroki fire and vice versa. They felt that we'll both benefit from it by knowing how to master our weaknesses. So it's all strategic movements if you ask me. So wait, are you transferring? Bakugo asked again. He was more interested on that part. I'm not sure yet. Maybe I'll leave it up to Principal Nezu. He will give the final recommendations, so there will still be a lot of paperwork, Takeda said. Bakugo thought about it as he took a maki in his mouth. He wanted Takeda to stay with Endeavor because right now it was one of the few times they get to hang out together. But at the same time, the teachers and pro heroes can analyze better where their quirks can be developed more. And that was the priority. Soon, lunch was over and they went back to their own classes. Kaminari was dozing off while doing homework after their class the next day. Wake up, dude! Kirishima nudged him quietly. You think the answers are in your dreams, Don's face? Bakugo whispered. The Baku squad and Kamihara were in the Freedom Hall doing group study, except Kaminari, who was really bored to death. Hey guys! Takeda came up quietly and sat beside Bakugo. He was a bit surprised to finally see her join them in group study. But this was part of Takeda's plan in bringing back the normal with Bakugo. Let me have a look at that, Denki, she said and reached out for Kaminari's untouched homework. No! Let him do it himself.
What the hell do you think you're doing, huh?
Bakugo stopped her. Shh! The teacher marshal hushed at the raised voice of Bakugo. They may be at the Freedom Hall, where they could do freestyle studying, but they were still expected to be quiet. As if I know the answers. I just want advance info, Kida whispered and read Kaminari's English homework. Ooh, grammar lessons with present mic. Yikes! Bakugo looked at her. He actually felt glad and relieved that she's back. He never noticed it before, but her absence had made him quite anxious. For 30 minutes, everything was going smoothly, until they heard a disturbing, crackling foiled plastic noise. Bakugo turned and saw Takeda opening a potato chip bag very slowly and as quietly as she could. Of all the snacks you could have brought, you decided to bring that? Bakugo whispered harshly and gave her his usual unapproving look. Takeda stared at him innocently as she picked one potato chip and placed it in her mouth. The crunch sound could be heard as far as the 4 tables from them. Kamihara had her earphones on and seemed unbothered by everything. Kaminari, Kirishima, and Sero tried swallowing their laughters though, but Kaminari was obviously failing it. Bakugo looked around. Some students raised their heads to look at them, but didn't say anything. Good thing the tables near them were either empty or occupied by first and second years, so no one dared call their attention.
Stop laughing! Did you not hear me? I'll kill you both!
Bakugo told them. To minimize her crunching noise, Takeda softened the chips in her mouth before munching on them. And so far, it had not gotten her a glare from Bakugo anymore. After 30 minutes of productive studying, they now heard a loud whizzing sound. This time, Takeda was opening a bottle of soda. Kaminari crossed his hands on the table and dropped his head to muffle his laughter. Bakugo looked at her again in disbelief, but she was oblivious to the sound that her soda was making when she opened it. And as Takeda was gulping, she coincidentally turned and caught Bakugo's glare. That's the only time she realized that she was being loud, when Bakugo looked like he was going to kill her. She burst out in surprise when she met his eyes, making her spit soda from her nose and mouth, spilling it all over her face. Kaminari lost it. He stood up and ran away to laugh. Kirishima and Sero were still trying to stop themselves from laughing as they watched her desperately wipe her face with her sleeves. Bakugo wanted to laugh too, but he kept his cowl. He reached out to get a napkin from the plastic of snacks that Takeda brought and handed it to her. He then went back to reading. And just as they thought that was it, thanks to the big gulp she took of that soda, she let out a loud and manly burp. Bakugo turned and snatched her soda from her while scolding her with his eyes. And when students from the other table looked, they thought it was Bakugo who burped because he was holding the soda. Kirishima and Sero gave up. They stood up, holding their stomach, and ran away to laugh.
Holy crap! What the heck, Bakugo? Stop laughing!
Takeda got surprised at herself too. She bowed her head so low to stare at her notebook and whispered, "I'm so sorry." She didn't dare look at Bakugo. Neither did she dare take another sip of that soda. Bakugo only shook his head as he went back to reading. No matter how much he tried, he just could not bring himself to get mad. He glanced at her bowed head and realized he actually missed all her clumsiness and goofiness. He frowned when he remembered again their talk about Enya at his dorm. Why would she ever think she'd lose me? What an idiot. After 10 minutes, the three finished off their laughters and went back to their seats to continue studying. Thankfully, everything went uneventful after that. Takeda also changed one day of her Quirk training schedule. So for a couple of weeks now, she got to train with Bakugo on Wednesdays. She retained her Tuesdays since the rest of the guys were still available on that day. Hey Denki, I've been thinking. We are creating combo attacks, right? And water is a good conductor of electricity. Takeda told Kaminari during their Tuesday Quirk training.
Real clever! I like it!
Let's do it, Kaminari said. After a few minutes of discussion on how they were going to execute their combined attack, they were finally ready to try it out on a dummy. Takeda will be doing her choke hold move on a dummy, and Kaminari will let his electricity flow through Takeda's water, and therefore attacking the dummy two ways, choking and electrification. You ready? Takeda asked Kaminari.
I am so charged up for this!
He then shouted,
1.3 million volts!
Takeda knew there was something wrong the moment he released it. It was too late to stop when she confirmed her suspicion. Instead of Kaminari condensing his power to aim for the dummy, he put his electrification flow within the glide of Takeda's water, thus making the electricity pass through her body. Takeda yelled as she felt the electricity fill up her whole body. Kaminari yelled. Takeda calling him Kaminari surely meant he'll be dead later. Bakugo and Kamihara were walking in the hallway near the infirmary when they saw Kaminari and Kirishima. They were laughing their heads off, despite Kaminari looking so beat up with a bloodied nose and lip. What dumb thing you did this time? You look like hell, Bakugo told Kaminari. Kaminari laughed even harder. I look like hell? Wait till you see Takeda.
He's not the only one busted up.
And at that moment, Takeda walked out the door of the infirmary, holding a medicinal lollipop from Recovery Girl. Her hair was blown up and the tips were fried to dark blue. Kamihara shrieked, What happened to you? Well, this morning, Takeda and Kaminari did a combo attack, Kirishima explained. But this charge boy here had a loose circuit and made the electricity flow through Takeda. Man, I thought the gym was gonna blow up.
攻撃ポンポン出してくるからな。バーッつって。Come here. Wait for what?
Bakugo hit Kaminari and yelled, You could have seriously injured her, you donghead. Hey, Takeda already beat me up, Kaminari complained. And I'm gonna beat you up some more if my hair doesn't come down by the end of the day, Takeda yelled. But it looks good on you, Kaminari teased. Why, you... Come here, you really need more beatings from me. Takeda charged at Kaminari while Kirishima laughingly held him to avoid escaping. Mizuyo, a male voice said. Bakugo looked on his left and saw Volcano Boy. Well, that was not his real name, but his quirk had something to do with it, so that's how Bakugo remembered him. He was on the same class as Takeda and fought with him during the war with All for One. I got your message. I have this extra cap in my room that I haven't used. You could have it, he said. He then took a step forward and placed a plus ultra cap on her head. Bakugo felt a bit overstepped. The guts of this guy to act so familiar with Takeda, and worst, he did it right under his nose. He looked at Takeda with the guy's cap and returned his stare at Volcano Boy. He got more annoyed when he saw that he was wearing a cap that looked exactly the same. Give me that, Bakugo told Takeda. He then grabbed the cap from her head and shoved it back to Volcano Boy. Just for this morning, because we're going out on a school trip and I look crazy, Takeda said as she tried to grab the cap back. I don't like it, Bakugo said. I don't like it? Bakugo got held back by his own words. What kind of a reply was that? He scolded himself, then corrected it with, I'll just create electrical friction on your head. Takeda sighed and knew he was right. Oh, I'm really gonna kill you now, Denki. Fortunately for Kaminari, Takeda's class rep announced that their bus was waiting. You can go now. Go very far away. Denki shooed Takeda away. But before leaving, she made a punch sign to Kaminari. I'll wait for you after class. Then turned the opposite way towards where their bus was waiting. Volcano Boy also turned to follow Takeda.
おい、今なんつって、二類以下のクソ学生が
Bakugo yelled. Where do you think you're going, Volcano Boy? Why are you following her? She's my classmate, he reminded him. Huh, Bakugo scoffed, watching them leave. Let's go before she comes back, Kaminari said. On that weekend, yay! A trip to the mall! Mina cheered as the Baku squad walked towards the bus station that weekend. We missed you last time, Mina told Takeda. Yeah, well, last month had been very busy, Takeda said, lost in her thoughts. She was walking behind Bakugo and Kamihara. Bakugo's hands were both in his pocket, but Kamihara was holding on to his right arm. They really looked good together, she thought sadly. I heard they opened a new resto today. Let's try it out, Kirishima said. Oh, actually, I won't be able to join you for dinner later, Takeda remembered.
何
Bakugo side-looked her from the front. Yeah, I'm meeting someone for pizza and pasta, Takeda added. Someone? Kirishima teased. Is it a guy? Why don't he just join us? Mina jumped enthusiastically. Or is it that pretty gal I saw you eating with the other day? Kaminari asked. If yes, then yeah, let's all meet her up. Hey, chill guys, Sarah stopped them. Leave Takeda alone. Besides, it's only noontime. We have all day to be mall rats. Woohoo! Let's check out the new album released by the record store first, Kaminari explained. I heard Jiro sing it. It's funky, Mina added. They seemed to have let Takeda go, except Bakugo, who looked like he was deep in thought. So, she had no plans of staying with us. Wait, why am I irritated? He thought. We had been doing a lot of things together lately. Well, still not as often as it used to, but definitely things have improved since our talk at my dorm after the battle exercise. I really shouldn't be irritated, but I am. Especially when she blushed earlier. The others didn't notice it, but it confirmed that she's indeed meeting a guy. Katsuki? Kamihara interrupted his thoughts. Maybe we could play the balloon darts again. Yeah, that too, Kaminari said. This time I'm gonna get the big toy.
Oh yeah, I think we've already got a winner.
At the mall, they went to the record store first. Then they tried on some winter jackets in the clothes section since it will snow very soon. Finally, they reached the balloon dart stall. Takeda remembered the photo Sarah sent last time they played here. She saw the huge baby blue puppy stuffed animal that Kamihara was hugging in that picture. She really thought it was cute. Baby blue and puppies were her most favorite things in the world. Are you gonna play, Takeda? Kirishima asked her. Oh, you bet. In the first round, Bakugo and Takeda already got major points. Kirishima got them on the second. After the third round, Kaminari was still unable to grab the points he wanted. As they were selecting the toys they won, Bakugo realized he wasn't really sure what to pick for Kamihara. Why didn't you get the one you like this time? He said, as he also remembered that he chose the blue puppy before because of Takeda. Kamihara smiled and got a purple pony. Kirishima got the pink cat and gave it to Mina, saying his room was too manly for those.
So manly!
I'm giving my points to you, Denki. Takeda surprised him. For real? Yeah, but the deal is you have to give it to Jiro. Huh? But she'll ask why, Kaminari said. Then do what Kiri does. Lie and say, you're too manly to have it in your room, she said and winked at Kirishima. Mina and Kirishima blushed but said nothing. They obviously liked each other. Maybe they were even dating already, but they haven't confirmed anything. As for Kaminari, He liked Jiro since their first year, but still never confessed to her. The squad had been encouraging him, but he still could not find the guts. There's a Pikachu here, you should get this, Sarah said. Everyone laughed, but Kaminari did take the giant Pikachu. All right, everyone, time for a group picture. Sarah called on everyone. Takeda checked on the time after Sarah snapped the photo. I better get going, guys. I'll see you tomorrow at school. Already? Mina pouted. Oh well, you have fun, okay? Kirishima said. The others said their goodbyes, but Bakugo just glared at her and nodded her off. By 5 o'clock, they started to get hungry. They took a late breakfast and had not eaten lunch. So, are we going to try the new resto I mentioned? Kirishima asked. We're having pizza and pasta. Bakugo answered as a matter of fact. Well, I'm kind of craving for pasta ever since Takeda mentioned it earlier, Mina said. Yeah, let's have Italian tonight, Saro said. Okay, okay, there are 2 pizza parlors here. Let's check out the nearest one first. When they reached the first pizza parlor, Bakugo quickly scanned the place. No signs of Takeda. It's too cramped in here. Where's the other one? He said. They walked towards the next building to the other pizza parlor. Even before they reached it, Bakugo already saw Takeda sitting inside. There it is! Kirishima pointed. Bakugo went inside and straight to Takeda's table. She was seated opposite a guy.
Hey, what the hell are you doing in here?
That guy was none other than Shiketsu Senpai Shishikura Seiji, the guy who transformed him into a meatball during the provisional licensing exam. She looked surprised to see everyone there, but all she could say was, hi everyone. Oi, it's our senpai from Shiketsu High, Kaminari said as he sat next to Shishikura. Oh, you know each other? Takeda asked. We all met in the licensing exams. I turned Angry Dynamite and Rock Boy here into meatballs, Shishikura said.
Huh? If you've got something to say, then say it to my face, nerd!
Bakugo said. And you're forgetting the most important part. The part where we beat you. Hey, why don't we order first before you guys fight? I'm starving, Sarah said. There are plenty of vacant tables, you know. Why sit here? Shishikura pointed out. To which Kirishima and Kaminai replied with,
We just wanna...
Takeda laughed and gave them the menu. They have Cajun chicken pasta, Kachan. You might like that one. Yeah, I'll have that. There's no way I'm eating pasta with meatballs today. He agreed without taking his eyes off Shishikura. The dinner was going surprisingly well. The cheerfulness of Kaminari, Mina, and Kirishima made it a lot fun. Towards the end, Takeda twisted the last serving of her shrimp pasta, and as she brought her fork to her mouth, Bakugo watched the expected. A sauce escaped and drizzled on her shirt. He knew it was going to happen. He chuckled in his mind. Forever a goofball, he thought. She would almost never finish a meal without staining her clothes or dropping a food or a utensil. He pretended to frown and took a napkin from the table to give it to her. But before he could even reach it, Shishikura was already offering her his handkerchief, and he was looking at her like she was the most adorable person he had seen. Bakugo felt like a vein in his temple will erupt. He proceeded in getting the napkin, but wiped his mouth with it instead. At the corner of his eye, he saw Takeda politely decline the handkerchief and took the napkin held out by Kaminari, who, in between laughters, was telling Shishikura that Takeda was absent when table etiquette was being taught. When they paid for the bill, Shishikura said, I could drop her off to school. You guys don't need to worry about her. Oh, we're not worried about her. We're worried about you, Denki said. Ha ha ha. You want me to take Pikachu back? Takeda laughed sarcastically. I'm just kidding. Kaminari raised his hand to surrender. As soon as she mentioned the stuffed animal, she bent down and picked up a baby blue puppy toy. Bakugo noticed it was exactly the same in the dart balloon game. Did she play again and won herself another toy? Or worst, did Meatball Guy win it for her? Bakugo was so pissed, but he tried to talk calmly. Just going back with us. It's up to you if you want to join her or not. I don't really care. Shishikura knew there was no point in arguing. Going up the bus, Bakugo let Kamihara go in first and ushered Takeda to enter next. He then blocked Shishikura by going up after. The bus was empty. Kamihara and Takeda both took a separate empty double bench. Bakugo didn't want Shishikura to sit next to Takeda, but he can't leave Kamihara alone in the seat as well. So, the inevitable happened. He sat next to Kamihara and Shishikura next to Takeda. He heard Shishikura tell Takeda something and it made her laugh. Huh. He can't help feeling irritated. Are you okay, Katsuki? Kamihara asked. Bakugo only nodded. When they got off the bus, they still have a good 10-minute walk to school. Mizuyo, why don't we get ice cream first? Shishikura suggested. Oh, I would like an ice cream too, Mina said. Well, it's only 8 o'clock. Why don't we all grab some? The squad invited themselves to it. Bakugo didn't say anything, but he started following them. There was no way he was taking his eye off Meatball Guy. Actually, is it okay if Katsuki and I go back ahead? Kamihara asked. Oh, no problem at all. We'll see you later then, Kaminari said. Takeda looked at the two of them as they walked the opposite direction. She felt a tinge of jealousy. She shook off the feeling, forced herself into a smile, and repeatedly told herself, don't be selfish, don't be greedy. As soon as Bakugo dropped Kamihara to her dorm, he half ran himself to the ice cream store. I wonder if they're still there. He glanced at the time. It was 8:30 p.m.
Bakugo!
Kirishima called him. They just got back inside the school and had the ice cream cones in their hands. Where's Kida? Bakugo asked. She's just behind us, probably saying goodbye to Shishikura-senpai by the gate, Kirishima said. Bakugo looked. He could see the gate, but not them. Saying goodbye? He thought. He better not give her a goodbye kiss or else. What are you staring at, Bakubro? Kirishima asked as he tried to look at the direction where Bakugo was staring at. Come on. Go ahead, Bakugo replied. He didn't take his eye off the gate as he walked towards it. Finally, he saw her emerge from the shadow. He continued to walk towards her, not really knowing why. Hey, where are you going? Takeda asked as she saw him walking towards her, opposite from the dorms. He didn't know what to answer. To you, he thought, totally confused. Good thing Takeda said something. I'm going to Eri-chan to give this stuffed toy. Join me?
Yeah, sure.
They walked to the teacher's lounge where Eri was staying. Good evening, Sensei Aizawa, Takeda greeted. We just want to give this to Eri, and gave Aizawa the blue puppy stuffed toy she got from the balloon dart game. She's still awake. You could give it to her personally, Aizawa said. Oh, hi, Eri-chan, Takeda waved. Kida, Kat-chan. Eri ran to them and hugged their legs. Eri gave Takeda a huge smile, while she exaggeratingly copied Bakugo's scowl and placed her hands inside her pockets too. Bakugo couldn't resist giving a small laugh at her imitation of him. As soon as he laughed, she laughed and raised both her hands to him. He took it and carried her. Look what we have for you, Takeda gave the toy. Eri's eyes gleamed with joy. They stayed for a bit, but when the first bell rang, they bid Eri good night and went to their own dorms. Good night, Kachan. Good night, Kida. They told each other as they separated. Bakugo stayed awake until dawn. He just couldn't sleep. His head was too busy thinking of Takeda, trying to understand his irritation when he saw her with that volcano boy And then this meatball guy. Why was he so affected? And why does he think of her in the most random moments? When he gets an extra bowl of rice? When he goes jogging? When he trains? When he does his homework? He thinks of her. Heck, even when he wasn't doing anything, he would think of her. He sighed and walked out the balcony. The sun will rise any minute now, and he still had not gotten any sleep. The next week didn't improve. The more he saw her, the more he missed her when it's time to part ways. And that just did not make any sense. Midweek, he was called to report to Endeavor Agency for an individual assignment, which turned out as a collab mission with Fatcom Agency. And so, Kirishima was called to report as well. It was a 2-day non-stop chase and battle scenario. Their injuries were not serious, so by Saturday, they went back to UA. Back at school, they were greeted by their classmates who wanted full details of what happened.
First Kamino and now the Yakuza. You guys are always getting into such crazy situations. Do you know how much that scares us?
Although it wasn't on the news, they heard from Tetsu that the two spent almost 48 hours straight without rest because of the chase battle that happened. Kirishima was happy to indulge everyone, but Bakugo was not in the mood at all.
Yo, Kachan, what are you over here sulking for?
Time for bed.
What? Seriously? But it's so early. Since when am I surrounded by geezers?
He was dead tired. Aside from work study, he had not been getting much sleep because of Takeda. He quickly showered, flopped on his bed, and sleep. Well, he tried to sleep, but his brain was not cooperating. God, Kida, please, this is driving me crazy, he whined.
This is stupid!
He stood up and went out. It was starting to feel winter as he walked straight to Takeda's dorm building. As soon as he got to the porch, the door opened and the same guy who always opened the door for him was greeting him once again. Mr. Dynamite, thank you for dropping by. May I ask for an autograph and a quick selfie? Bakugo had no energy left to argue, so he held out his hand, gesturing for the boy's pen. Takeda's classmate was taken aback. He stared at Bakugo's palm, then his face. Bakugo didn't say no? He panicked and hurriedly looked for a pen. He ran back to Bakugo and made him sign on his UA homeroom notebook. His other classmates also gathered next to him and snapped some pictures. Thank you, Mr. Dynamite, sir. Hey, send the pic to the group chat. Can I still get an autograph, you think? Everything was becoming a blur for Bakugo already. He was exhausted, and his head was already throbbing. He scanned the living area and found Takeda sitting on the couch. She had the book on her hand, staring at him with her mouth slightly open. She was both a bit surprised and quite confused, and Bakugo thought she looked beautiful. He shut his brain down and didn't contradict his emotions. For that moment, he didn't want to think. He just surrendered himself to his feelings. Seeing her, it felt like all the things that were confusing him just disappeared. He just wanted her warmth and her strawberry milkshake scent. He just wanted to be with her.
I stumbled over my steps, couldn't pick myself up off the ground to be the man you needed me to be. I broke your heart and watched you slip away from what I failed to do, what you needed me to say.
He went straight to her, leaving the group chatting behind him. He lay down on the couch and rested his head on her lap. Her eyebrows lifted, questioning what's happening right now. I just really need a few hours of proper sleep, he told her. She looked down on him, but he had already closed his eyes, even before she could say anything. She looked at her classmates who were studying on the corner table, turned down the volume of their music, and continued with their work. He looks pretty beaten up. We'll keep it down a notch. Takeda thanked him. Then she grabbed the history book she was reading. She did so not because she planned to continue studying, but to cover her face as she stared at Bakugo's peaceful face. Relax, Takeda. It's not as if this was the first time he laid his head on your lap. Remember the time you felt guilty during camp telling all those stories about the soil ghosts in your tent? You sat outside by the fire the whole night, remember? And so he slept outside as well, made his head comfortable in your lap. He then called you a chicken before falling asleep. So act natural. Try to feel normal, Kida. She continued to look at him, and she questioned herself. How could she feel normal when she's staring at this boy who has grown more handsome over the years? The same boy who would handle her as a formidable, aspiring hero, but would also treat her like a delicate flower. She almost jumped when he suddenly turned flat on his back, but he remained to sleep soundly. Her heart's beating was getting louder by the minute. Could she still really control how she feels for him? Because every day, she just falls harder and deeper.
I love you now, I love you always. The story of us on the walls of our hallway. 20 years passed, oh tell me, where did it go?
He smelled her scent before he saw her. He knew that he was still sleeping on Takeda's lap. For how long, he was not sure. He felt her right hand gently playing with the tips of his hair. He wondered if she was even aware of it. Slowly, he opened his eyes. She was slightly tilted to her left, watching something from her phone, her left elbow resting at the back of the chair while she held her phone at eye level. It felt good waking up, and her face being the first thing to see. It felt extremely good, like nothing else mattered except the moment. Whatever she was watching made her laugh. The side of her eyes wrinkled as she tried to swallow that laughter. Is that a video of Kaminari? He whispered. She looked at him and removed her earphones. Look who's awake. What time is it? Almost 6 o'clock, she answered. He didn't want to stand up, at least not yet, so he closed his eyes again. Really? Just 4 hours of sleep? Felt like I slept the whole day, though, he said. Yep, my legs would say the same, she moaned. He took it as a cue to sit up. Her legs needed stretching for sure. She stood up and kicked both her legs who had been stuck unmoving for 4 hours. Sorry if I bothered your class. Looking around, he noticed that most of her classmates were still in the common room, not really minding him sleeping by the couch. Some were even playing a board game. Oh, no worries, Mr. Dynamite. The guy who always opened the door for him said. You want some snack? No, but thank you, Bakugo said. I better head back to my own dorm. There you are! Where have you been? Kirishima asked as Bakugo entered. He was cutting down some vegetables. It was his schedule to help with dinner preparations. Just around. Give me a knife, I'll help you, Bakugo replied. How about helping me with the carrots instead? Kaminari said. He was also on for dinner prep. Bakugo said nothing but signaled him to give him the carrots. Help me with the potatoes too? Kaminari added. Send it here, Bakugo said. Wow, looks like he's in the zone, Kaminari teased. I'm just in a good mood. Oh, right, these onion chives need some cutting too. And could you check on the rice while you're in here? Kaminari said. Don't push it, lazy ass. Kaminari just laughed at Bakugo. And with Bakugo helping them out, dinner was ready in no time. In return, they helped Bakugo, who was on dishwashing that night. Momo served tea for everyone as they let their food digest before going to bed. Kirishima and Bakugo went outside to drink theirs. You look better. You seem bothered these past few days, Kirishima said. Did something happen? Bakugo took a long time to answer. Kirishima almost thought that Bakugo would not talk about it at all. But then he spoke. I've been thinking a lot about Kido. Takeda? Did you fight or something? Kirishima was a little confused. No, Bakugo said. He took a long breath and continued. I'm not sure how to explain it. Bakugo looked at the trees in the porch, trying to find for the right words to continue. I've been having confusing feelings about her for the past few weeks. I don't understand what those feelings are, because they don't make sense. The only thing clear to me was how annoyed I was when I saw her with that meatball guy, and her holding up the stuffed toy from the balloon dart game. I knew he won that for her. He's too proud to let Kida win that for herself. And that's annoying? Kirishima asked. Hell yes! Bakugo exploded all of a sudden. I'm the only one who's supposed to give her stuff like that. No other guy should be giving her anything at all.
That's exactly why I'll kill the guy!
I'm the one who has been doing that, and I'm the only one who should do that. Then the sound of Takeda laughing with Shishikura in the bus also entered Bakugo's mind. And him telling her jokes? So pathetic. I'm the only one who's supposed to make her laugh, he reiterated. Because I am her first laugh.
Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it!
Kirishima was obviously confused with Bakugo's outbursts. And then Bakugo looked at him, and his face said it all. Bakugo let out a deep sigh of surrender. I told you, it's confusing. Kirishima took his time to answer. Maybe you're just used to having Takeda for yourself. I mean, you grew up together, and you literally did most of everything together. So perhaps you just both need some time to adjust to some changes. I'm sure you'll get used to it. Bakugo absorbed Kirishima's words carefully. He thought about it for long minutes, then replied, But I don't like it to change. He said it so slowly but very firmly. Takeda has always been my constant. Then he looked at Kirishima as the realization slowly dawned on him as well. He felt like a veil of shadow was being lifted open. Hearing him say it and acknowledge what was really creeping inside him was suddenly making everything crystal clear. And I want that constant, he said. Bakugo looked back to the trees, then to the sky. I don't want her to become someone else's constant. After a long silence, it was obvious that even though Bakugo didn't say it, his feelings for Takeda had developed into something far beyond friendship. Kirishima asked the inevitable, So what about Kamihara? Bakugo pondered on it. He liked Enya. She was sweet and nice. But he remembered the night he talked to Takeda about her. He didn't hesitate to ask if she felt uncomfortable with Enya. Because had she answered yes, he would have went straight to Enya that night to break up. I'll just have to be honest with her, Bakugo answered Kirishima's question. Because between everything and everyone else, I will always choose Kida.
I choose you all day long. I choose you till the sun goes down. Under the stars by the light of the moon. Every day I choose you. I choose you till we're old and gray. When I can't find the words to say. With every choice I make, with everything I do, I choose you. With every breath I take, with every move I make, there's no question that it's you. Baby, I choose you. I choose you all day long. I choose you till the sun goes down. Under the stars by the